I didn't come to the desert looking for peace. I came here because it was the only place left that didn't Google my name and gasp. 3 months ago, I was a rising star in sound design, worked on big campaigns, even did backup mixing for a Netflix doc. Then I posted a mic'd up prank video that accidentally caught a senator yelling something unrecoverable. Lost my contracts, lost my job, lost my dignity when I had to explain to my mom why her friends thought I was part of some deep state psyop. So when a handwritten letter came offering a job fixing up the sound system in a nowhere town called Calavena, I packed my gear and hit the road. No return address, just a postmark from New Mexico and a line scrawled in Sharpie, "Come quietly." Cute. Calavena isn't on any map. It sits on the edge of a dying highway, where even tumbleweeds look dehydrated. Think ghost town, but make it sadder. A gas station with no gas, a diner with no menu, and people who all walk like they're trying not to wake something up. As I rolled in, a man with desert skin and mirrored sunglasses waved me down at what used to be a sheriff's office. "You're the audio guy?" he asked without looking up from his cigarette. "Yep, Jay," I replied. "Jay Mercer. Name's Ernie. I'm the mayor, the bartender, and the guy who keeps track of who's still breathing." He took a long drag, then added, "We don't get many visitors. That's usually by design." "Charming tourism slogan," I said. Ernie didn't laugh. He led me into the town hall. One room, dusty wood, stage with a busted PA system, and an honest-to-God velvet curtain like they were still waiting for vaudeville to come back. "Fix this," he said, gesturing at the setup. "The old sound guy disappeared 2 months ago. Left half his crap in the back. Don't go through it." I gave a polite nod. I've dealt with grumpy clients. Hell, I've been one. "Any specs? Budget?" Ernie raised an eyebrow. "No shouting," he said instead. "Sorry? No loud noises, no yelling, no blasting music, no power tools after dark. Quiet keeps us safe." He paused. "It's not a suggestion." I crashed at the motel across the road, 5 rooms, all empty, managed by a woman named Dottie who smelled like menthols and regret. "I put you in room 3, she said, while holding a chihuahua that looked like it had seen war. "Try not to scream in your sleep like the last one." "The last guest?" "No, the last sound guy. Cool, super normal." That night, I tried to settle in. I powered up some of my gear. Even with the low hum of the air conditioner, a rare and dying species, something felt too still. No crickets, no traffic, not even wind, just silence. Until, at 2:07 a.m., I heard it. A faint, scratchy whisper. Not from the hallway, not from outside, from inside my equipment. I checked everything. No feedback, no rogue inputs, nothing recording. But still, it kept going. A slow, crackling whisper, like sandpaper brushing skin, like something practicing your name in secret. I shut it all down and went to bed. In Calavena, you sleep with the lights off and your questions quieter. Tomorrow, I'd start fixing their sound system. But tonight I learned the first rule of this town. Silence isn't peace, it's survival. By morning, the desert heat was already threatening to melt my car's tires into pudding. I grabbed coffee from the diner, which came in a chipped mug that smelled more like rust than roast. "You're the new sound guy?" asked the waitress, a sun-leathered woman with nails painted like tiny flames. "Jay," I said, offering a hand. She didn't take it. Hope you're better than the last one." I smiled like I hadn't already heard that twice. "What happened to him?" She blinked slowly. "He talked too much." "Like, he gossiped?" "No, he literally talked too much." "Okay then." I spent the morning tinkering with the town hall's dusty PA. Whoever designed this setup was either drunk, cursed, or both. Wires were labeled with masking tape that had long since surrendered to time, and half the system was patched through a tape deck from the Reagan era. I worked in silence naturally. Every time I so much as tapped a mic, I noticed someone peek in from the street like I'd fired a gun. You'd think I was building a bomb instead of testing sound levels. Around noon, Ernie dropped in again. "You settling in?" I wiped sweat from my brow. If by settling in you mean surviving caffeine withdrawals and conspiracy theories, yeah, just dandy. He stared at me. "Have you heard it yet?" I paused. "Heard what?" He tapped the soundboard with one leathery finger. "They come through the wires. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me what. Just don't amplify them." I squinted. "Wait, are you saying something's trying to talk through the PA system?" He gave me a long look and said, "You don't get it yet, do you?" He walked out before I could answer. Later that day, I went through the storage room Ernie told me not to mess with, naturally. The former sound guy, Lou, according to a Sharpie label on his old road case, had left everything behind. Mic kits, a couple old recorders, and an ancient handheld tape player with a worn-out sticker that said, "Do not play after dark." You know what I did? I played it. The tape began with nothing, just static. Then softly, Calavena was not always dry. It was taken, drained. Something drank the wind, and then it wanted more. Then the voice shifted, raspy, higher, like it was getting excited. It was born beneath the bones of a forgotten well. It burrows, it feeds, and it listens. A silence, then a final whisper. "Don't let it hear you breathe." Click. I sat there for a full minute, blinking. The room felt heavier, like the air had thickened, soaked in something wrong. That night, I took a walk outside the motel. The stars were insane, clear and endless, like someone had glitter-bombed the sky. But the silence, it wasn't peaceful, it was intentional. The desert felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for someone to make a mistake. A coyote cried out in the distance. 3 seconds later, I heard the sound of something being dragged through the sand. Then, nothing. No echo, no wind. Not even the usual rustle of dry grass. I backed into my room and locked the door. I checked my gear again, this time just to record ambient noise. Set a loop, hit record, and left the mic running through the night. Next morning, I replayed the audio. Everything seemed normal until 3:13 a.m. That's when the scratching started again, only this time it was clearer. And there were words, not full sentences, just fragments, whispered. "Hungry, don't speak, too loud," and at the very end, just before the sun came up, "Jay." I didn't say anything, didn't scream, didn't breathe, just stared at the waveform on my screen like it might bite. Because in Calavena, the desert doesn't echo, it remembers. By day 3, I had upgraded from new guy to guy the locals avoided like a sneeze in a small elevator. Every time I walked into a building, conversation stopped. Not in a "he's different" way, in a "he might be contagious" kind of way. Only one person talked to me voluntarily. A teenager with a skateboard and a death wish. He rode in circles around the town square, popping ollies over broken curbs and blasting music from an old speaker zip-tied to his backpack. I flagged him down. "You're not worried about being, loud?" He grinned. "Nah, they already think I'm gonna die young." "What's your name?" "Max." "Jay, I do sound." He tilted his head. "You mean like paranormal sound, EVP crap?" "I mean, mostly microphones, but lately, maybe EVP crap too." Max leaned in. "You want to hear something messed up?" Obviously yes. He pulled out a tiny voice recorder. "My cousin gave me this before she left town. She told me to never play it. So naturally," he hit play. There was silence. Then a low hum. Then something like voices, dozens of them, layered and tangled, speaking in unison, but out of sync. Words overlapped and bent like they were caught in a vortex. "Listen, listen, listen. Too loud. Inside your teeth. Hush, 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 hush." And then, do you remember screaming? Max stopped the recording. Okay, that's enough nightmare fuel, I said. He shrugged. She said they live in the silence, but they talk through anything that used to carry noise, wires, metal, bone. Bone? She was weird, he added. Cool, but like, writes poetry with blood weird. Back in my motel room, I did what every rational person would do. Ran my own experiment with a full-range mic and a parabolic dish aimed at the desert. I let it run for hours, and at dusk, I played it back. Normal, static, then, you don't listen well. I nearly dropped the headphones. It wasn't a whisper this time. It was flat, emotionless. And worst of all, it was my own voice. I scrubbed the file, played it again. You should be quiet now. There were no cuts, no edits, just my voice, saying things I never recorded. Then came the singing. Hundreds of voices, humming softly. No lyrics, no tune. Just an endless, looping hum, like the kind monks might chant at the bottom of a tomb. The mouthless choir. I pulled the headphones off like they were burning. I went straight to Ernie's bar. It was the only place open past 8, and more importantly, the only place that sold bourbon strong enough to dissolve teeth. People ever hear singing? I asked him. He didn't flinch, just poured me a double and slid it across the bar. Used to be worse, he muttered, before we built the bell. The what now? He gestured vaguely. North end of town, big thing, not for ringing, just for keeping. What does it keep? He took a sip from his own glass. Us, from being heard. I visited the bell that night. It sat in the middle of an empty lot, rusted and cracked, propped up on wooden beams like a fossil someone was too scared to bury again. It was huge, at least 12 feet tall, and totally sealed. No rope, no clapper, just dead metal under moonlight. Someone had carved into its base, sound was our sin, silence is our cage. As I turned to leave, I heard something from inside the bell, a breath, then a chorus, not human, not kind. The mouthless choir sang one long, drawn-out note, soft as sand, sharp as glass. And behind it, in the static of the wind, I swear I heard, Jay, you're getting louder. Tomorrow I'm recording inside that bell, because I need to know one thing. What happens when silence finally answers back? You'd think crawling into a massive rusted bell in the middle of the desert wouldn't be high on my bucket list, but here we are. I waited until mid-morning, no wind, no one around, just the kind of silence that vibrates in your teeth. I brought a shotgun mic, a field recorder, and an unhealthy disregard for personal safety. The inside of the bell was colder than expected, still, airless, the kind of quiet that made your thoughts echo. And that's when I realized it wasn't silent at all. The air hummed, not a sound you could hear, a pressure, a frequency, something ancient, like a leftover vibration from a scream that never stopped. I hit record. For 3 minutes, nothing happened. Then the recorder spiked, levels blew out. I didn't hear anything, but the mic definitely did. I yanked off my headphones. That's when I noticed the carvings. Inside the bell, just under the metal lip, someone had etched names, dozens, all scratched in by hand. Most were faded, some were familiar. Lou, Max's cousin, Ernie, and one freshly carved J. I bolted. Back in town, I found Max sitting on the roof of the laundromat, drinking warm soda like a king surveying his kingdom of dust. I held up my recorder. Check this out. He listened to the spike on playback. The waveform looked like a heartbeat, huge, pulsing, unnatural. Then came the voice, not mine this time, a woman's. Calm, confident, like a librarian asking if you've returned your soul on time. We were buried in silence. You are unearthing us. Max looked pale. You're poking the hive, dude. I think the hive is already awake. Later that day, I visited the old mine on the edge of town. Max had mentioned it in passing. Something about where the voices echo backward. Sounded like nonsense. It still does, but that hasn't stopped me before. It was chained up. That lasted about 4 minutes. Inside, the mine was cold and dry. No bat guano, no animal sounds, just stillness. Until I reached the first turn. That's when I heard the voice, a girl, faint, like a memory being played through a seashell. "Jay, are you there?" I froze. It was my voice, no recorder, no speaker, just air. "Please don't leave me in the quiet." Then, footsteps, but not walking, crawling, fast, from every direction. Something was coming through the mine, just out of sight, just under sound. I ran. As I burst into the sun, I turned back and saw them, figures, dozens, standing just inside the mine's shadow. They weren't fully visible, just silhouettes, bent wrong, hunched like they'd forgotten how to be human. None of them had mouths, but somehow, I could hear them humming. I didn't sleep that night. Mostly because someone knocked on my motel door at 2:43 a.m. I opened it to find a cassette tape on the ground. Labeled, "Tomorrow's Goodbye." I played it. Silence. Then my voice. "This is Jay Mercer. If you're hearing this, I made too much noise. And now, it knows me. The tape wrecked me. Not because it was some cryptic mystery, I've made weirder demo reels, but because I didn't remember recording it. And I'm meticulous about audio. I don't miss things. I don't forget my own voice saying goodbye. So when I heard myself whisper those words on the cassette, I knew 2 things. 1, whatever's in this town can imitate me. 2, it wants me to know it. And I, genius that I am, decided it was time to push back. That morning, I walked into the diner with Max and laid out a plan. "A plan to what exactly?" he asked, chewing on a toothpick like it was the only thing keeping him alive. "I want to make noise." Max blinked. "Like, on purpose?" "Yes. Loud, clear, targeted sound. See how it reacts. I want to know what triggers it." "You ever hear of not poking the ghost wasp nest, Jay?" "Max," I said, "I'm not just poking it. I'm gonna mic it, EQ it, and run it through a subwoofer." He smiled. "Cool, let's die loud." We picked the old gas station as our test site. Far enough from town that we wouldn't wake the locals, but close enough that if something awful happened, we could scream for help. Hypothetically, we brought my amp, a parabolic mic, a few high-gain speakers, and, for dramatic flair, a fog machine I found in Lou's abandoned gear. Because if I'm going to summon cryptid demons, I at least want it to feel like a metal concert. At sunset, we hit play. The sound we blasted was simple, a reversed loop of the mouthless choir hum from my recordings, layered with my own voice, whispering nonsense like, "I hear you, do you hear me?" and "Feed me the silence." It took 7 minutes. 7 minutes of the sky turning orange, of the speakers hissing into the void, before something responded. The temperature dropped, not in a "maybe it's nighttime" way. In a freezer door just opened inside your bones way. Max looked around. "Dude," the wind picked up, but it didn't sound like wind. It sounded like breathing. And then, the scream. It didn't come from one place, it came from everywhere. Like the town itself exhaled all the rage it had been swallowing for generations. A high, violent wail, part roar, part static, ripped through the desert. My amp exploded. The speakers cracked and spat sparks. Max dove behind the gas pump. I hit the dirt just as the fog machine burst into flames, which felt a little on the nose. Then silence. Dead, dry, surgical silence. And out of the fog, something moved. It didn't walk, it slid. It was tall, thin, wrapped in something that looked like wet cloth and twitching muscle. Its face, or lack of one, was just smooth, white nothing, but I could feel it looking at me. It stopped just beyond the light, and then it opened, not a mouth, a crack, right down the middle of its head. splitting like a peeled fruit. Inside, no teeth, just wires. Coiled, rusted wires, tangled like veins. And nestled in the center, a speaker, old, analog, scarred by time. It screeched, a feedback loop. My scream played back at me, warped and mechanical. Then the voice, you called, you screamed, we screamed back. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Then, Max, absolute legend that he is, chucked his skateboard at the thing and yelled, "Your EQ is trash." The board hit nothing, just passed through as if it were smoke, but the creature stopped, tilted its head, and vanished. Gone. Like it had never been. Back at the motel, Ernie was waiting. "You screamed," he said, arms crossed. "I had a good reason." "You always have a good reason right before people die." He threw me a key. "What's this?" "The church. Go tomorrow." That's where it started, where it always starts. I stared at him. "Why help me now?" Ernie looked tired, the kind of tired that lives in your blood. "Because if this town has a chance, it starts with someone who isn't afraid to scream." He paused. "But next time, maybe scream with your inside voice. The church in Calavena isn't abandoned. It's ignored, no one talks about it, no one maintains it. It just squats at the edge of town like a bad memory in architectural form. Peeling white paint, sun-warped doors, and a cracked sign that once read, First Grace Church of the Desert, but now just says, Gray, CHURDT. The key Ernie gave me squeaked in the lock, like it hadn't been turned in decades. Inside, cool air, faint mildew, dust thick enough to be considered a building material, and silence. Not the peaceful kind, not the reverent, holy kind, the kind of silence that listens. I stepped onto the altar. That's when I saw it. Behind the pulpit, covered in a dirty tarp, was a huge reel-to-reel recorder, not a normal one. This thing looked military, industrial, like something used to document nuclear detonations, or summon ghosts with bad attitudes. A note was taped to the front. Do not play unless you're ready to hear yourself die. Naturally, I powered it on. The tape spun to life, static, then breath, then my voice, laughing, crying, whispering, all at once, then others, hundreds of others, a cacophony of echoes layering over each other like a broken chorus, some angry, some terrified, some still asking for help, and beneath it all, a low hum, familiar, hungry. Then the voice came through. You gave us sound again. You turned us up. Now we are louder than silence. The windows shook, the walls groaned. The mic I'd clipped to my belt spiked so hard it nearly fried my recorder. That's when I realized it wasn't just playing the past, it was broadcasting. I grabbed my gear and ran past the diner, past Max, who was casually painting "We're Boned" on a sidewalk. Past Ernie, who just nodded grimly as I passed like he'd seen this coming since birth. Back to the town hall, to the PA. I hooked everything up, my mics, my field recorder. The amp I thought had died, and I hit play. Only this time I didn't play the whispers, I played them back, all of it. The screams, the taunts, the voices of the lost, their own feedback loop. The air changed instantly, it thickened, warped. Then the screamer appeared. Not just one this time, all of them, dozens. Tall, mouthless, wrapped in silence, surrounding the building, lining the streets, their heads splitting open to reveal those strange speaker mouths, all hissing and howling until my loop hit its peak, and then silence. They froze, twitched, turned inward, and began to scream at each other. Their bodies cracked like old radios frying from the inside out. Their speaker faces sparked and bled static. One by one, they fell, writhing in noise they couldn't swallow, because silence had been their sanctuary, and I'd made them listen to themselves. By sunrise, they were gone. Ernie said nothing, just handed me a mug of coffee and walked away. Dottie gave me a half hug and told me the screaming outside had stopped finally. Max spray-painted "Loud Guy Wins" on the side of the church. Fair. I stayed in Calavena for another week. Checked the mine, empty, checked the bell. Still humming, but quietly. No new names carved. Checked my recordings, all static. And the tape from the church? Gone. Burnt to ash inside the reel. I think it ended because I played them the one sound they couldn't handle. Their own story. I'm back home now. Got a new job. Still teach sound theory, but my lectures are different. I tell my students that silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's a space where something else might be waiting, listening. And some nights, when everything's too still, I swear I hear that soft, familiar phrase in the static of my sleep recorder. Jay, we're not done. Turn us up again.